What's up, everybody? Garrett back here. What I want to do is I want to dive back into some physical media and talk to you guys about something that was popular in the Blu-ray and DVD time, but when it comes to like 4Ks and new releases, it's something that I feel like doesn't get a lot of love anymore. And that is the lenticular slipcover. So personally, I'm not like a huge slipcover aficionado or anything like that. I only really collect slipcovers when it comes to like boutique labels. But I used to collect slipcovers back in the day when DVDs were out. It was kind of a new thing. And even with Blu-rays, some of the slipcovers that I do keep on my Blu-rays are the lenticular slipcovers. I always thought that was a cool feature that a lot of these companies were doing, specifically for horror movies. Now, like I said, it's very rare that we see these nowadays. We do get some on boutique labels. I know Vinegar Syndrome does a heck of a job every once in a while throwing a lenticular slipcover on their releases. And also Universal are putting out like these thick box packs for some of their newer movies in the UK. Now, the lenticular slipcover or slip box or whatever you want to call it, I know started with some VHS tapes. I'm pretty sure Jack Frost had one. I remember having that. I'm pretty sure had a lenticular like VHS case. But as far as my VHS collection now, I don't have any lenticular VHS to showcase, but I do have DVDs. So what I want to do is I want to bring you back down memory lane. Maybe you didn't even know some of these existed, but it's just going to be a cool idea to go through some of my limited lenticular slips from my DVDs and Blu-rays. Now again, these aren't all of them. These are just the ones I grabbed, the ones I saw right away. So as I pull out some of the DVDs that did have this feature, the first one is going to be my only non-horror one that I'm bringing to the table. And that is Trading Places. So if you look at this there, it's got that lenticular slip. It's actually a pretty cool slip cover. It's them inside like a snow globe, and it looks like a Christmas theme. And I just think this is a real cool like piece of artwork here, because we never see like a cover like this any other time where Dan Aykroyd's dressed as Santa. So that's pretty cool, and I know I'm getting a little bit of glare, but as you can see, this is a really nice slip cover on this DVD of Trading Places. So this one I showcased in a recent stream talking about my old Best Buy exclusives. And that's a lot of times too, is that these limited edition lenticular slips would be exclusive to a store. Now the ones that I'm showing here were exclusive to Best Buy or anything like that. I'm not completely sure. This one I know this was a Best Buy exclusive lenticular slipcover DVD for Rob Zombie's Halloween. So this was a lenticular slipcover that you got on, day one when you bought this from Best Buy. So this was something that was very limited at the time. So again, very cool to have this. And I did keep it, like I said, I am a fan of the lenticular slipcovers. So I do keep those in my collection. Now here's another horror movie that I'm sure you guys remember. I don't know if you remember this DVD having the lenticular slip, but that is Cabin Fever. So this version of Cabin Fever, which was a day one purchase at the time, does have a pretty cool lenticular slip with this skeleton or this skull kind of overlooking the house in the woods there. So very cool image here. I like this. I don't know if you guys had this edition. I'm sure most people did, because Cabin Fever seemed like it was a pretty popular movie when it came out. So I'm sure a lot of you that bought this around that time when it first was released remember this slip. Now this one was a limited edition slipcover. I'm not sure exactly from where, because I have seen this movie many times without a slipcover, so I'm assuming this thing was exclusive somewhere, or at least was limited. And this is for a movie that I want to showcase now, because I loved this horror movie. And I'm going to do a whole show talking about some of these movies that came out around this time that maybe you guys had missed when it comes to the horror genre. And that is going to be the lenticular slip for a movie called The Ruins, which again is a movie that's really cool and underrated, that does not get much love at all. And I'm surprised someone like a Scream Factory has not released this movie, because it is one that I missed completely, I believe, when it came out in theaters. I just overlooked it. I don't think it really was marketed well. And when I bought this DVD when it came out to give it a shot, I was completely blown away. I thought this was a really well done horror movie in the 2000s. So let me know what you guys think of The Ruins. And check out this killer lenticular slip. All right, so here's one that I personally don't hate, especially being a huge Lost Boys fan that I am. I don't hate this movie. I don't think it was necessary, but I actually like this one better than the third one, and that is Lost Boys The Tribe. That's a real cool lenticular slipcover here, the unrated version. So very cool. I always liked this slipcover action that they had on that one. Alright, so that was a couple DVDs that I had that I wanted to showcase some of those lenticular slips. That's where I first really started finding them and collecting them, is they would be on some of my DVDs. But being mainly a horror collector and focusing more on like 80s and 90s movies, I'm sure I probably have more in the collection. I'm sure there's probably a lot more out there that I just don't own. And the same thing when it comes to here. I'm going to showcase some of my Blu-rays that I still kept the lenticular slipcovers on. But again, keep in mind, I'm only going by the things that I have and I collect. So there could be a lot more out there from Marvel. I actually do think there's been a few from Marvel that I remember, because there was a point in time where I was buying some of those. So I think like Incredible Hulk, Avengers, stuff like that. So again, this isn't everything in my collection. I think I do still have some of those editions, but these are just ones that I grabbed and I wanted to showcase. So the first one is going to be for a movie, The Shallows. Remember when this came out? This was a pretty cool movie, but as you can see, the lenticular slip here is really cool, where she's in the water, and then boom, she's not, and the water is all red, simulating like the shark came by. So actually a really cool movie with Blake Lively in it. So if you haven't seen The Shallows, I recommend checking it out. Now going back to Rob Zombie, this is another cool one. Here's the Blu-ray for Lords of Salem. So as you can see, this lenticular slip is a little bit different. Like, it doesn't have a lot of movement going on here. It almost has like a 3D effect. As you can see, Sherry Moon there. She's kind of moving around, but it's not as drastic as things like we saw with The Shallow and stuff like that. But this is definitely a lenticular slip for Lords of Salem. Now, this is actually a pretty cool lenticular slip cover for a movie that's not that great. Actually, the cover is better than the movie itself, and that is A Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake. So if you look at that there, you see the slices going down, like he just scratched the cover of this movie. So pretty cool. It's actually a really nice cover with just Freddy there with the slashes coming down. So yeah, that is A Nightmare on Elm Street remake that had that limited lenticular slip. All right, now we have two movies coming from the same franchise, and that is Final Destination 3D, Final Destination 5 in 3D. So as you can see, these things are moving around here. So this was big during the 3D craze, where a lot of these movies were coming out in 3D. I did have a 3D television at the time, so I was buying some of these as well. But yeah, so Final Destination 5 in 3D and Final Destination, The Final Destination in 3D. So yeah, this is two Final Destination movies that did get that lenticular treatment. Now, I did showcase this one recently in a reel on Instagram and on a short on YouTube, because this was just announced coming to 4K from Scream Factory. And when I had this edition, I said, you know what? I don't think I need this in 4K. And this is a real cool edition, because this is a really nice slip cover, and it's going to be better than what we get from Scream Factory. And this is Carrie, the remake. And as you look at that, you got Chloe Grace Moretz there, and then boom. So really nice edition of this, with this lenticular slip, which is a cool feature, I think, for a movie like this. Now, the next one is a remake, and this lenticular slip is not the greatest. It almost simulates like, hey, this movie's in 3D, which it was, and that is the sequel, or the remake, to Fright Night in 3D. So you can see Colin Farrell, aka Jerry Dandridge, at the top there, kind of moving around. So yeah, so this is a 3D limited slip with that lenticular feature there for the Fright Night remake. Now, another one that got a really cool lenticular slip cover is The Conjuring. So this is pretty cool, as you can see there. Ghost appears there. The Conjuring was one of those movies that was really special to me, because this takes place in my area. So where I grew up, this is where the house was. You can still go there. So when this came out, the theaters around me were slammed. There was lines going around the building. People were just so excited to see the story on screen. So I like The Conjuring. I like the first one. I think it's really cool. And yeah, this is a pretty cool little feature here for that lenticular slip. All right, now the next one is a George A. Romero Survival of the Dead. This is a real cool slipcover. Probably better than the movie is. But look at how cool that is. This was definitely something we're like, let's use this as a selling point. This, and then it says George Romero on the top, because Survival of the Dead is not really a great movie, but this is a real cool addition up here with this lenticular slipcover. And look at that hand. Very cool. So definitely happy to have this version in my collection for a movie that I really don't watch that often. Now, sticking to horror and almost like a sequel, we get the Texas Chainsaw 3D. So look at, that's a pretty cool one. So again, another 3D disc here with that lenticular feature of Leatherface's chainsaw kind of popping out. So this was marketed as a 3D movie too, so very, very cool to have this. This movie, I think, is getting a little bit more love lately than it did when it came out, because it's not a bad movie. I think that it could have been a lot better with a timeline change and some mistakes that they made. But yeah, this is a really cool version of this movie, and I'm pretty sure we're going to probably see a new edition of this coming out relatively soon. And another Best Buy exclusive that I showcased on my Best Buy exclusives video, and that is going to be for The Ring. So that's a really cool lenticular slipcover. So they were doing them back in the day on the Blu-rays, but I really rarely see them on, you know, mainstream 4Ks or anything like that. So as we kind of dig a little bit deeper, like I said, Universal's been doing these sets in the UK, and I've been buying a couple of them. I know they do one for Violent Night. There's an Exorcist Believer one that's coming, and this is the one I did purchase, and this is for Megan. And they give you in a nice thick box. Inside here's a steel book, so you get a lot of stuff a book, but they did put the lenticular feature on this box set, which is pretty cool, like I said, because you don't see this lenticular feature anymore. I don't know why I can't get this to move around. Let me see. There you go. Just getting a glare of the light. So there's Megan on it dancing. So again, just a cool feature to have on here. Just gives it a little bit of an extra touch, I think. So very, very cool. And again, I know they did a Violent Night one. I do have the Exorcist Believer one on the way. So again, I think they both have like a lenticular feature on the front, if I'm pretty sure. So now jumping into the boutique label. Like I said, it's not one we see often, but some companies are still doing it on certain releases. Here's one from Viavision, and that is Wolf Creek. So as you can see, not much going on here with the lenticular, but again, it's still there. Just a little bit of movement. I love Wolf Creek. I think it's a fantastic movie. I did a full review on this edition on my channel, so if you were interested in this edition from Viavision, you can check that out and let you know my thoughts. But I think this is a movie that is highly, highly underrated. All right, so the boutique label that I found that is still giving us a lot of lenticular action every once in a while, not with all the releases, but every once in a while they'll add a little extra to some of these releases, and that's going to be Vinegar Syndrome. And the first one that they did, or at least I bought from them, was this Jack Frost. Look at how cool that is. Now, this was definitely a day one selling point for me because I knew this thing was going to go fast. And like I said, it does remind me of back in the day because I do believe the VHS had a very similar effect, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, very cool that Vinegar Syndrome's giving us cool stuff like this every once in a while, just to kind of give some additions a little bit more prestige. The next one I have from them that does that is Tammy and the TRex. So there's not much, I don't think, that goes on with this one. It is lenticular, but it doesn't have a lot of effect like the other one done. This is almost giving it more of like a 3D effect. You can kind of see a little movement there, but nothing crazy like the Jack Frost one was. But yeah, Tammy and the TRex, and this slipcover sold out really quick. So again, it is cool to kind of have that to give this feature just a little bit more oomph for you to buy it. Now, one they did really well in a movie that I had never seen before this edition, and I liked it a lot. And this is Demon Wind. Look at that. It's coming through the window. I thought this was really good, and I had never seen it up until I got this release. So you give me an 80s movie like this that I haven't seen, and I really like this one. So I'm happy to have this edition of Demon Wind. And a big one from Vinegar Syndrome that people are after is the Rad 4K. And this one did come with a lenticular slipcover on one side, and then they also gave you like a reflective hologram style on the back. So it's almost like kind of like a double slipcover, which I think is pretty cool. And to have Rad and just any kind of addition that just gives it a little bit more prestige, I really love. So very cool final touch that they gave this release. And they're still doing it because this is a newer release from them, almost like a couple months old, but they did it for Rabid Grannies, and that's a pretty cool lenticular action that it has there. So again, these are just some of the ones that I have in my collection still. I wanted to showcase some from the time of DVD, from the Blu-rays. Like I said, there's not many 4Ks that I have in my collection that have this. So is this kind of like a lost art? Are there a lot out there that maybe are editions that I'm not buying? Like, are there more studio releases that are doing this that maybe I'm just passing by? Is Marvel still doing this? Is Disney doing this? But I know a lot of them did back in the day. So I always just wonder that, because it is one of those style of slipcovers that I still keep displayed in my collection kind of all together on Blu-ray and stuff. So when I looked at my 4K section, I didn't have any that fit that mold. So even things like Smile, which I thought would have definitely been something they would have added some kind of feature like that too. But let me know, gang, are you a fan of the lenticular slipcovers? Being in a community where everybody loves slipcovers, you would think that something like a lenticular slip would be something that people would be kind of clamoring for on some of these releases. Alright, gang, this is just a brief history and my collection of the lenticular slipcover, and it just gave me another reason to showcase some of the stuff in my collection for you guys, maybe titles that normally wouldn't get showcased. Let me know what you think of some of these editions I showed. Is there anything in here that you had never seen before when it comes to these slipcovers, or do you have any of these editions? Let me know down below, and this is Garrett at Born to Be Rad, and like always, stay